I'm his biggest.
Yeah, he was your
student.
boy at one point, wasn't he? Like, he was normal.
Yeah, Darth actually taught me a lot of stuff. Like the first time I ever realized. So this is what Darth taught me. He taught me that in order for something to be true, you have to have a system through which you can account for it. And in any system where something is true, there's got to be an authority that makes it true.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized, like, oh shit, we need an authority to account for the truth of a proposition.
Which is the state of things we call reality, yeah.
That is called presuppositional apologetics, in fact. And it doesn't really make sense.
Reality has authority over all of us.
It does. I learned from it. So you're saying it doesn't make sense, but me and Darth have a mutual understanding of it, and my brain works like Darth's brain, and it made it really easy for me to learn. But maybe I think different people work differently. You know what I mean? Like for one person, Darth's a good teacher. For another person, he's not. You know.
Okay.
Well, according to this, he's still in the server, so he's probably just not online.
Oh, he's there, I'm sure. Always watching. I'm joking. Sorry. Fox, what you just described, can that be horseshoed effect? Because, like, unless you can put a horseshoe on it, then it's not, like, confusing. You know, is there another way to...
This is the way. It's like the bell curve, right? If there's a 20-point IQ differential, then you can't communicate with somebody. Darth's got like probably a 150 or 140 IQ, and I've got like, you know, maybe a 120, 130 IQ, you know? So I can understand Darth, but all these, you know, 100 IQ people, they just couldn't follow what he was saying.
Yeah.
You know?
I have debated him a couple of times. He's a good teacher. He's very intelligent, but when it comes to presuppositional apologetics, but the premise of this line of thinking, it's wrong. That's what I'm trying to say. But he's a good teacher. I
disagree. I think that you're wrong and he's right.
Okay, so how can we establish who of the two of us is right? Okay, so
get him in
let's
here.
Have a debate.
Get Darth
let's
in
have
here.
a debate about it.
Okay, let's have a debate if
Darth?
you like. So
so how do you know anything external to your mind is real if you reject the Christian God?
Because reality doesn't depend on the Christian God.
Okay, so how do you know that?
Okay, what is the definition of what is real or what is a fact or something like that?
Something like that.
Is what corresponds to reality, isn't that right?
I mean, if you want to use that definition, how do you know it corresponds to reality? I don't have the same system as you. I'd just be interested in hearing how you do it. You know what I mean? So you're saying something's true if it corresponds to reality. I agree. Okay. So how do you know whether it corresponds to reality or not?
Okay, so we need to investigate. We have two ways to investigate truth: evidence, but under the category of evidence, we have logical and empirical evidence. Empirical means our experience, our experimental evidence, and logical evidence. This is the only two ways we have to investigate truth. So
how do you overcome the problem of induction in your worldview?
In induction, let me recall the definition.
The problem of induction, yeah.
Okay, so let me see the definition because I cannot recall now what that means exactly. Induction.
No worries, you sound like a smart man, so if you look it up in your own language, then I'm sure you'll know what it is.
Yeah, so the problem of induction. Yes, I just don't want to waste your time looking for it, but I try to be fast.
That's fine, man.
What's the major argument with this? Is how do you know reality is real? Is that it? Like the major?
No, so he's saying that he disagrees with Darth Dawkins and the presuppositional approach to Christianity. So I'm just asking the things that he perceives about the external world real. If he thinks we're wrong, what's his system of analysis? And he is gonna fuck up in a second and admit that he doesn't know anything.
Okay, guys.
So
I found now the definition. It says that the problem of induction, famously formulated by David Hume, questions the justification for believing that future events will resemble past patterns. Oh, it highlights that inductive reasoning, assuming the future, will act like the past, lacks logical necessity, as there is no rational guarantee that unobserved instances will resemble observed ones. Okay, so yes, I know what you mean. So what that means is we have the example of physics that we say that every swarm, how you call this animal? Swarm is white. Yes, but you don't know if in the future one swarm might be black, and that is actually confirmed in reality. Okay. So the answer. So the answer.
But that's not. That just because there's an exception to the rule, that sort of disproves the rule. Actually, when they say, "Oh, the exception to the rule proves the rule," that's sort of wrong. You know what I mean? The exception to the rule proves that there isn't a rule. Like when you say, "Oh, swans are white," you're not saying that there couldn't be a black swan, because when swans are babies, they're like black. You know?
Yes. No. I agree with you.
This is just bullshit. This is a terrible argument.
Yeah, no, I didn't make this argument. What I will say about this is that as humans, we are in a sense cursed to not have a complete conscious state, so we cannot address absolute truth. So science doesn't address absolute truth; it addresses probabilities. So we can be certain about very few things, like, for example, the logical absolutes. There are certain, like there cannot be a merit bachelor. For that we can be certain. And the other thing that we can be certain is things like I think, therefore I am, or something like I can be certain that because I think I exist, something like that. But other than these things, we cannot be certain in an absolute sense about anything. That's why, sir, in conversation like this, we use effective reasoning, not absolute reasoning. And okay, this how I respond to this thing.
No, you did it, but I still think you're wrong.
Yeah, I know.
I think that we can reason to more things, through reductio ad absurdums and stuff like that. But I told you, Sif, you see, eventually, we just asked him a couple of questions. What happened? He just said he can't reach absolute truth about things in the external world.
Nobody can.
So that's it.
No.
How do you know that? So that's polysolipsism right there.
No.
Now he's trying to polysolipsize me. I'm not the same as you, bro. I don't believe in your worldview.
Yes, but
you don't even know I exist.
Yes, but belief is not real. What you believe doesn't make it true necessarily. Isn't that right?
You don't know I exist, so you can't tell me about what I believe and what I don't know and stuff like that. You're not in a position to have authority over what I think or what I'm capable of knowing. You don't know anything.
No, doesn't know. If I don't know everything, that doesn't mean I don't know anything. This is like hiding behind absolutes.
Okay. Can you prove one thing about the external world?
As I said, absolute proof doesn't exist by definition because this is the nature of this world. That doesn't mean.
Thank you so much.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that you are right.
So that's it. You're done.
No,
you're done. You're finished.
Wait just a moment, sir. Let me tell you something. Not knowing something, that doesn't mean you are right. That doesn't mean that you have the absolute truth.
That's what I said. I said you wouldn't be able to know anything about the external world. And then you admitted it. You said, okay, I can't know the absolute truth about the external world.
Not knowing everything in an absolute sense, that doesn't mean we can't know anything. And the proof of that is all the advances science. So we went to the moon. How we went there? Okay.
How do you know we went to the moon?
Because we trust our experience. We need to trust.
And why do you trust that? How do you know that do you actually believe we went to the moon? Do you think that humans went to the moon?
I believe that, but that's another conversation. I believe that
Is
personally.
no? Because you're saying that you can prove things 100%. You know what I mean?
No,
But I don't think you can.
that's why we use probabilities. We are not using absolute reasoning.
So what's the
Absolute
probability then? What's the probability that Buzz Arms, what's his name, Buzz Aldrin,
what is
went to the moon?
By definition, if you want to engage,
did he really?
Sir?
What's the probability?
Okay. Okay. So what I will say is that when we engage in a debate, we have to engage in effective reasoning. In other words,
You're not doing that though. I'm not convinced by your argument.
Whether we are reasonable to believe. This is what we need to establish. Not whether we are absolute certain, because by definition we cannot be absolutely certain. Not you, not anyone.
Okay, I disagree. I think your definition's wrong.
Okay, so how can you be absolute certain about anything? Tell me.
What you do is you look at the variables, you account for whether, it's one way or the other, and that's how you can know. You use your discernment.
No, yes, but
let's say that we were trying to figure out something about whether the car was red or a different color. Like, even if you were colorblind, you could go and check the manual.
Yes. So,
you could ask somebody else. You could get an independent third-party account, and they'll just be like, "Oh, it's red,"
okay,
and then you ask another person, completely independent, say, "What color's this?" You go, "That's red, mate."
Okay.
But we can trust the reliability of our sense perception and our cognitive faculties because God has bestowed us with the ability to discern the difference between good and evil and discern fact from fiction through this logical system in a world which has, identifiable attributes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But you don't believe in all of that stuff. You just don't know anything.
Yes, but wait a minute. Now you made a logically consistent argument, but in order for an argument to be true, you need to relate now your argument to reality, because I can also make let's say a sweet story about anything that is logically consistent. That doesn't mean it's true.
Go on, okay, go on.
Okay.
Give us a non-Christian story that can make something true.
Okay. That can make something true. I can make a logically consistent argument. Let me give you an example, sir. Let's say that if let me make a very simple one. If a cat is larger than a dog and an elephant is larger than a cat, then an elephant is larger than a dog. Okay, so I can make this logically consistent argument, but if we check the premises, we will realize that the dog is not larger than a cat. Okay, this is what
it's
I'm
subjective.
trying to say.
It's relativist. It's relativism. You know what I mean? A dog and a cat depends on your subjective perspective, so we don't really know whether it's a dog or a cat.
Yeah, but
so in your worldview, you can't justify. I don't know. You're saying it's an elephant. I don't know what you mean by that.
Okay, so yeah, but now you need to. What you are claiming, sir, that we cannot know whether a dog is larger than a cat. This is what you are claiming, that we cannot know anything. In other words,
in your worldview, with the premise, if I work from your perspective,
yes,
like when you say dog, why should I believe that your understanding of a dog is the same as mine?
Why? Okay, so that's a good question. Because we agree in certain definitions of things.
I don't agree. I disagree.
Okay, so now
I disagree.
Yeah, but now we cannot engage in any reasonable conversation, because you are rejecting the first principle, sir. You are destroying logic, in other words. You are this.
But that's because your worldview can't account for it.
No,
in your worldview, why do you? Okay, so why should I believe in logic then? In your worldview,
okay, so presuppositional is what you are doing, sir, is trying
You're presupposing logic. I'm showing you that you're presupposing logic, reason, your sense perception being reliable, your memories and cognitive faculties. Showing you have. I don't have presuppositions like that. You know.
No, you have the presuppositions.
I can actually justify everything I believe.
How
you
can
can't?
Justify? How you can justify? You can
because
make the
we
claim.
have a worldview which can account for the reliability of my sense perception.
Yes,
you can't. So you just believe it. You don't have any justification. Arbitrary presupposition.
What you have, sir, is a logically consistent argument. That doesn't mean it's true. Can you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, okay. So what's more likely to be true? A logically consistent argument or one that doesn't make any sense whatsoever? Which one's more likely to be true?
Okay. So if an argument cannot be true if it contradicts logic in a direct way. So
okay. So then my argument wins then.
No. Your argument is a valid argument. We don't know if it is a sound argument yet.
I disagree.
It is sound. Okay. Prove your premises. In order for your argument to be sound, sir, you need to prove your premises. God exists. God, logic is based on God.
This is what we define God as. God is the authority that accounts for the truth of a proposition. Yeah. Ultimately.
Okay, prove this definition.
So I know I exist, right? I think so, therefore I am. I experience, therefore I am. Okay? In order to experience, you have to exist. I experience, therefore I exist.
Yes, sir.
But that's true. That's true, even if I don't accept it.
Yeah, but you presuppose
There's
certain
a lot
premises.
of people that say no. Just hear me out. Hear me now. So basically, I experience, therefore I exist. Okay. Now, the authority that makes that true isn't me. So there has to be something that's external to me that can account for the truth of that proposition. That is a necessary authority. That's God.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So now
Thank you very much.
Okay, but now you made a claim that truth is what God arbiters, or it flows from God nature, or something like that. Is that your claim, sir? That truth equals what God arbiters, something like that?
No, I said that God is the thing that accounts for the truth of the proposition. So, if anything's true, it's in the context that God provides. God is the ultimate standard of truth. So, okay, so in order for something to be true, it has to be true in a context, right? Things can't be true unless they're true in a context. Before creaturely minds existed, things were true. And so the context that they were true in was in the mind of God.
Okay.
You know? In order to account for truth prior to creaturely minds, then you need a necessary mind. You know that argument, St. Thomas Aquinas?
Yeah, so this argument goes something like it says that even if this universe didn't have any minds, or before the earth was formed and we didn't have any humanity, truth was still true. Things were still true. Like, okay, so that is the argument. And how can we account that truth existed even before human mind? That means that, therefore, there is an absolute mind, God's mind. This is the argument, more or less. Isn't that right?
Not human, but creaturely. We say creaturely minds, not human minds, but creaturely minds. But yeah, nice job anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so my argument will be that without human minds to perceive truth, first of all, I agree that for truth we necessarily need consciousness. I concede to that. For truth we necessarily need consciousness. So without human minds, although certain things were true, we didn't have any minds to conceptualize this concept. In other words, without human mind or without creatural minds, a stone is still a stone, but we don't have minds to conceptualize this concept. So this is my response to this. Yeah. And okay, and in a sense, you agree with that, sir.
Whoa.
Yes.
You're saying there's conceptual minds.
No, I say that objects without minds, objects are still objects. We don't have minds to conceptualize the truth. Okay, so can you understand?
So that means there's a necessary consciousness. You even said that.
No.
Right?
Okay, so wait just a moment. If we assume what you say is true, sir, that we necessarily need a mind for truth, that also means that without minds there is no truth. But now okay, so without human mind, if we assume that the universe is only there is no God, that means that without human minds there is no truth in this.
That's what you guys believe. Yeah, you believe that truth is subjective and dependent on human consciousness, basically.
Subjective and objective is another issue. What I'm saying is that without human minds, in a universe without minds, although things although this universe has the potentiality for truth, in other words, a stone is still a stone, there are no minds to conceptualize this truth, to make the connection. So that will be my answer. Now, about the objectivity and subjectivity, something can... the only thing something needs in order to be objective is a fixed point of reference. This is what I will say. But I need to
okay.
What I'm trying to say.
Okay, so you're saying that something in a fixed point. Okay, but you said that in order for something, you said about consciousness. Did you say that there was a necessary consciousness?
No, I said that this argument is a very strong argument, and it makes sense that if without minds there is truth, that implies that there is an ultimate mind, because we necessarily need minds for truth. I concede to that. But what I said then is that without...
I understand. You don't think that there's a mind necessary for truth, that things are true independent of minds. So where does the truth come from? Is the truth an emergent property of the world? Or
yes.
What is it? Okay, yeah, see, I already know the best answer for you anyway. But the problem with that is if everything in the world is the thing that's ultimate that makes things true, that's called naturalistic pantheism. Right? You know that, right?
Yeah, I will not use the word theism in this case, because pantheism is kind of a loaded word. Theism,
In a way. But look, this is the thing, is that if the thing in your worldview that's ultimate, that accounts for the truth of a proposition, is everything, then what can adjudicate the truth of the proposition, ultimately?
Okay, so I will try to understand
nothing.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. There's nothing that can account for the truth of the proposition. Like you're saying that the truth is an emergent property of all things. But if me and you disagree with each other, then the thing that's ultimate in your worldview contradicts itself.
What if I go with this definition of truth? What if I say that truth is what correlates to reality, and test?
How do you know what comports to reality?
We need to test reality. We need to test reality.
How do you know that your senses are giving you a reliable picture of the external world?
Okay, so
how do you know you're not in the Matrix or you're in an illusion?
Okay, whether I can understand or recognize truth is irrelevant whether truth exists. This is what I'm trying to say. So,
well, you don't even know whether you can recognize truth.
Yeah.
So that's a win for me. I have won. This is an easy walk in the park, walking your dog win for me. Thank you very much.
So, yeah.
Well, I don't think that's very scientific, honestly. I think that you're begging the question, and it's illogical and irrational, and you should convert to Christianity, because in Christianity, what we have at the helm is a self-referential being, which has the ability to act as a sender, receiver, and authenticator of truth. And each person of the Trinity can act as the sender, receiver, or authenticator. And it's in an eternal self-authenticating relationship within the Trinity. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is the pinnacle of truth, is that we have an unbiased verification system that can account for love, unity, mutual reference points, mutual understanding, three-dimensional relationships, and the continuity of the law of identity through time. We can account for the physical world in the way that it is without contingency within the ultimacy. That's why we're the best. That's why I believe in Christianity, and I don't believe in Islam or any of that other low-tier BS like atheism. Where they say, this is what the atheist says. They say, I just don't know anything, and neither do you.
Okay, so
that's the whole argument.
Okay, sir, let me give you an example. Okay, let's say tomorrow God came down to earth and made a statement, and he said that an elephant can fit through a mouse hole. And we test the elephant, and he doesn't fit through the mouse hole. Is God being true? Is the statement of God true?
If God can't fit through a mouse hole, God
no
is...
No, excuse me, sir. Let me say that again. Let's say tomorrow God came down to earth and he made a statement, and he says, an elephant can fit through a mouse hole. He made this statement. Is he true?
They can't do that.
Why not?
He can't do that. That would be a demon. What you'd be describing there is a being that isn't always truth revealing. That's the thing about the Christian God.
Okay, so
the Christian God never lies.
Exactly. So,
okay.
So I just defeated your argument. You just admitted that truth is outside of God. It's the environment defines truth, not God.
No. God can't contradict himself.
God created
can't contradict
truth.
himself.
God is the embodiment of truth. The reason why we have this paradigm and these parallels is because when God created man and woman, Lucifer came in and got us to eat from the tree of knowledge, and this is why we have these debates where we besmirch God's name and say that, oh, what if God came down and said if an elephant could fit in a mouse hole? You're criticizing God by saying these things indirectly, and you're calling him a liar or expressing him as a liar, and that is the word of the Antichrist. And I don't believe in what you say and what you are now further going to debate on, because ultimately you're trying to derail and make it seem as if God didn't give us the collective consciousness. He did when he created light. Let there be light. When light came to the world, so did the programming that God gave us of, venturing out, looking for food, all of the creations of us as creatures was endowed upon us by him creating light. So what you're saying here is completely irrelevant. I'm sorry, but that is just not an okay statement to make. Because if you're saying that if God came down tomorrow and told us a lie, and that is God, that is not God, and it very much is the Antichrist.
Yes, but...
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Yes,
I will not have you besmirch I will not have you besmirch the Almighty.
My dear friend.
Now you've upset her, bro.
What if you notice? I never said he lied or something like that. My argument was I didn't.
You did.
You implied that he lied, and that was exactly the point. How you know that he that if he says
he didn't lie, he can't lie. He cannot lie. It's impossible.
But what if
this is why I'll explain it to you. Let me just explain it to you. Yes. He is the truth. Right? The word is God, and the truth is the word. Okay. So
Socrates.
it's the ultimate authority. God is the truth. He's the way. He's the life. He's the light. He's the beginning of time. He's the center of time. He's the reference point that's ultimate from which time is measured. He's the light. He's the cosmological constant from which all, physical things are measured. He's the Alpha and the Omega. Like, we're not idiots, We don't just believe in some, like, sky daddy type creator being, you know what I mean? We're smarter than you guys. I hate to say it. I mean, I hate to boast. You know what? We should be boasting in the glory of the Lord. But, you guys, you don't know anything. You don't know your brains exist. You don't know your hands exist. You don't know anything.
And you trying to sow the seeds of doubt by using our Lord's name in vain in that way is an embodiment of what Antichrist is doing every day to besmirch Christianity and Christian people's names. That is without a doubt the ultimate truth. And I will not listen to you further. I am close to muting you, sir, because at the end of the day, you cannot besmirch the Almighty. You cannot besmirch the Almighty in that way.
Besmirch sounds like a hot sauce.
Yeah, you can't. I'm the moderator here, guys. I'm sorry to say it, but I appreciate you, and I can see you're upset. But yeah, I mean, I'm down to listen to it. He's saying that could he lie? I think that look. He can't lie because he's the truth, right? I don't know if you get that, but God is the Word. The Word is like the Bible's the Word. Do you know what I mean? And there's no contradictions. There's no lies. There's nothing like that. People say that there are, but actually they're just sophists and stuff trying to make an argument out of nothing. So we know that, right? So, but you can't go against God. It's impossible. To say that God lied is like to say that black is white. Just doesn't make sense, You
need to read Genesis, Socrates. You need to read Genesis.
Is there an instance where, like, God deceived someone?
I think God didn't deceive. It was a spirit that deceived. But let's stick on Socrates here. I think he was going through some thought experiments. He's thinking about it, but yeah, I don't know if you understand that fully, Socrates.
Yeah, with all due respect, I understand what you said, but my point was quite different. If you follow what I said, I never said that God lied or something like that. My point was that what was that the environment defines truth, because you made an argument, sir. You made the claim that God defines truth. You said that, and I gave you an example where when in this case God didn't responded with the environment, then you implied that
what are you, bro? You're misunderstanding what I said. God is the mind in which the truth of a proposition is upheld. God can't contradict the truth. What he says is the truth.
Okay.
He speaks the world into being. Okay. Right? There's people in the world, they can say stuff that's not true about the world. But God, when he speaks, he manifests things. And you can't manifest a contradiction. God is the Logos,
Okay, sir. But how we know
you must have misunderstood.
Yes, but how we know then that an elephant fits through a mouse hole is not true? How we know? Maybe that is the truth.
Maybe you're just misunderstanding. It's be a branding issue. Maybe you're just speaking a different language. You're ignorant and you're arrogant and you're boastful. You know what I mean? But if God comes into the world and he says, if something that seems like God comes into the world and says that an elephant is, I'm speaking the English language, King's English, whatever you want to call it, you know, an elephant can fit through a mouse hole.
Yes.
Right? That's not God. That's a demon right there.
Why? Yes, but now it's like I'm not trying to be offensive, but that is like you are implying that is in fact the environment what defines truth and not God. God needs to what God needs to do in order for his statement to be true, to make the hole bigger in order for the elephant to fit, or to make the elephant smaller. That means that he needs to alter the environment in order for his statement to be true.
No.
Yes, if you think about it.
He wouldn't say that. Right? He's not an idiot.
Yeah, but
you're assuming that he's an idiot off the bat. That's not real. You know what I mean? This is your hypothetical starts off with assuming is like retarded or something.
So, guys, at this point, let me take a little bit time to explain what is the argument. So, if the claim is that God defines truth, okay, I make a thought experiment and I say, what if God came down now here and he said that an elephant can fit through a mouse hole? Is his statement true? No. But if we assume that God defines truth, what he says necessarily becomes true. Instead, we test the elephant and doesn't fit through the mouse hole. And what God needs to do in order for his statement to be true? To shrink the elephant to fit through the mouse hole, or to make the mouse hole bigger in order for the elephant to fit. What that means? That the factor that defines what's true is the environment. It's not God. That's the whole argument. I didn't want to insult God or something like that. This was not the point. And neither I implied that God is a liar. My point was I was investigating whether God defines what's true, which was the claim of the gentleman. No, I'm just demonstrating.
That's why it's like a demonic spirit. You're trying to manifest a false God. You know what I mean? You're saying, well, it could just be God, but he's, there's no Jesus. Well, then how do you account for justice and mercy? How do you account for all the suffering and stuff like that? With Jesus, we've got the salvific plan of redemption. The perfect hero in the perfect world. He comes in as the centerpiece of the creation to sacrifice himself out of love for the people that he loves. How could it be the perfect God if it wasn't Jesus? It couldn't. We need that. You need the perfect God to come into the perfect world with the perfect hero story. Be the centerpiece of his own creation.
Okay, that's first of all, I'm not against Christianity. In fact, I support very often. I support Christianity against Islam. So, and I love Jesus as a figure. Okay, although I don't believe in God, but I think Jesus is. I love Jesus. Okay, so I don't have anything bad feelings against Christianity.
Jesus is the perfect man, right?
Yeah,
you'll agree with that. When you think about Jesus, if you think what would Jesus do in my situation, and then you do what Jesus would have done, then you'd be doing a good job.
Yes, but that's why I'm saying that I'm not making a moral argument. I'm just investigating the nature of reality. I'm not making moral arguments right now.
Yeah. But what you've done is you've cut your nose off to spite your face. Right? What you've done is you've said, well, for no reason, basically. You say, well, I don't know that my sense perception is giving me a clear picture of the external world. And that's it. You're done. You're toast. Your whole worldview's finished.
Let me respond to that. My sense perception. Let's say I lose my eyes tomorrow. God forbids. Okay. Let's say I lose my eyes. That doesn't mean that the outside world disappears. That means that my perception is limited.
How do you know the outside world exists? If you lose your eyes tomorrow,
yes.
How do you know the world exists anyway? Even if you didn't lose your eyes, how do you know that the world exists external to your mind?
Because the data that is like saying, without making experiments of the world, how we know certain things. We necessarily need sense perception in order to be able to investigate stuff. That is true. Okay, we necessarily need, and our perception of the world is either way limited, even with our sense perception. We cannot see certain types of things other animals see. For example, a bat can see with its ears. For example, I'm giving you. There are many scientists use instruments in order to see stuff in the cosmos that our natural our perception cannot see. So either way, we need some kind of ability to sense the environment in order to make any truth claim, unless it's something that is just logical. But something which is just logical, that is only in our logic, it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily true. It's like making premises. It's like I make a deductive argument and I make the premises follow, but I don't know whether my premises are true. This is what I'm trying to say. Is we need the environment to understand
what
truth.
you're telling us here is that you don't know. Ultimately, you're saying you don't know.
I don't know I'm not absolutely certain. This is what you are saying. And
thank you very much. And that's my point.
Yeah.
Is that you don't know, and I do.
Yes, but
and you're wrong. Thank you very much.
But if knowledge is just what we can be absolutely certain, then the only thing we would have known will be that A cannot be not A, the logical absolutes, and
How do you know
exist.
That?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because that is we just need logic to know these things.
How do you know that? How do you know that logic is upheld throughout time? How do you know that you're rational?
How do I know? I don't know that I'm rational in an absolute.
So you don't know anything. You don't know you've got a brain. You don't know that you're even rational. You're deterministic, nihilistic, can't know anything.
No,
it's impossible.
Yes, but
it's an impossible worldview. You can't. I mean, I feel like I win the debate. I hate to, crown myself the victor in this debate. But
yes, but you
don't know anything. So
yes.
That was easy. You know what I mean?
No. Okay. So in presuppositional apologetics, the trick is to hang on to the fact that absolute certainty cannot be obtained, and then make an ad hoc claim that in my worldview, wow, what happened? Sorry, God. Okay. So the presuppositional apologetics claim trick works like that. I hang on to the fact of reality, to the fact of nature, that we can't know certain things with absolute certainty. They hang on this fact, and then they make an ad hoc statement or claim that under the Christian worldview, I personally can be certain. So you can't know stuff, and I know stuff. Therefore, my worldview wins. What's the problem with that? The problem is it's a circular argument. Okay, so it presupposes the premise to prove the premise. It presupposes that the Christian worldview is true to prove the Christian worldview. Because the statement that under the Christian worldview there can be absolute certainty about everything is just a statement. Okay, the logic works, but it's just internally consistent logic. But for something to be true, you need to go out from the logic and relate what you say with the environment in order to be true. So it's a circular argument. I presuppose my premise in order to prove my premise. Okay, thank you very much, guys. So, anyway, bye-bye.